Welcome along to the Tenacious Beat podcast. I am your host, Ashley Bentley, and we are right in the middle of Zen and the Art of the Mind, looking at the intersection of arts and mental health. And you might notice a few things that I am wearing. We've got a little Tenacious Beat podcast hat. We've got a mug and wait for it. Oh, yes. So, yes, I am putting together some merchandise for you lovely people. And as soon as it is all ready, because I'm going through some quality control checks, I want to make sure everything is just right for everyone. That will be coming shortly, so stay tuned for that. Today's episode is with Jordan Priest, aka Jor DMC. What an amazing guest JorD was. He really opens up about all of the things in his life, including music, beatboxing, neurodivergence, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, all sorts of different things. Oh, yes, and a little bit of blacksmithing thrown in as well. He's an intriguing guest. He's led quite an interesting life so far and continues to do so, and shares with us a bit of his journey and how his creativity fits in with his mental health and building his resilience and deepening his self-care. I'd like to thank the sponsor of the podcast, Integrative Coaching, Breathwork, and Hypnotherapy. I am going to put a link in the description below to a YouTube video from Integrative, which is my hypnotherapy business. And it's a little intro video all about me and my services. And so I hope you take a look. I work with people from around the world, as the majority of my sessions are done online via Zoom video call. So wherever you are in the world, we can work together. And it's also been beautiful recently working with more corporate clients, helping companies build up their employees' resilience and really start to work on mindset and self-care in a way that empowers. If you'd like to be a sponsor of the podcast, please make sure to get in touch. tenaciousbeatpodcast@gmail.com is the email address to send all of your inquiries to. We are also looking for more Pickle of Destiny questions. So if you have a question for our guests, please make sure to email the podcast. Get them in there. We need them. They're a highlight of the show. So without further ado, enjoy this month's episode. Welcome, everyone, to Tenacious Bee. My name is Ashley Bentley. I am your host, and we are right in the middle of Zen and the Art of the Mind, looking at the intersection of arts and mental health. And I'm really excited about our guest today. I've got a lovely little introduction to read out. I am very pleased to introduce to you our guest on the podcast today is the one and only Jor DMC. Hailing from the Isle of Man, JorD is a multi-talented artist known for his extraordinary skills in beatboxing, rap, and music, and even the ancient craft of blacksmithing. But that's not all. JorD is also renowned for his quirky and unconventional personality, earning him the title of General Weirdo Extraordinaire. As a seasoned festival musician, JorD has graced the stages around the UK and Europe, captivating audiences with his mesmerizing performances and his infectious energy. From intimate gatherings to massive music festivals, his dynamic presence never fails to leave a lasting impression. But JorD is more than just a musician. He is also a dedicated gym enthusiast, a neurodivergent explorer, and a hardcore nerd, in his words. His diverse interests and passions fuel his creativity and drive him to push the boundaries of what's possible in life. Get ready to dive into the mind of this one-of-a-kind artist as we explore his journey, his passions, and the fascinating intersection of music, craftsmanship, and eccentricity. Welcome to the show, Jor DMC.
Thank you very much. That's a great intro.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. But you know what? You give it's all down to the amazing amount of diverse things that make up who you are. I mean, I love the fact that you've got a history in blacksmithing. We definitely want to touch on that because that is really fascinating. And we also want to talk about your creative process, how that fits in with your mental health. I think what's really interesting though, and I mentioned this to you a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about doing this, is the similarities in our paths, you and me, for a number of different
Yeah.
things. Um, and I just thought of a new one today, actually. So we both had a very difficult childhood. We were bullied quite a lot, and that really shaped who we are. And we also were undiagnosed Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and autistic and ADHD and OCD, all of the lovely neurodivergence. It's Neurodivergent Appreciation Week this week, by the way. And yeah, and how going through life being undiagnosed with those things and just feeling like just very confused, trying to find our way. And then getting deeply involved with the arts. Now, the one thing that I thought about today that we didn't, the other similarity that we haven't yet discussed was I was thinking about you being a blacksmith with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And for those of you out there who don't know, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, there's 13 different types, but the most common one and the one that you and I share is type 3. That's the hypermobile type, where our joints are
Super bendy.
basically, yeah, they're faulty. They don't work. Our muscles hold our skeleton together rather than our tendons and ligaments like most people. So things like doing blacksmithing is probably one of the worst things you could have done. And
Generally,
I used to
yeah.
teach aerobics and jump up and down, and it's like that would have been one of the worst things I could have done. So yeah, so
I'd
anyway,
also
so
get the rugby and motorbikes.
sorry.
And the rugby and the motorbikes.
Oh
Both of
my
them.
gosh. Oh, I didn't realize you did rugby and motorbikes as well.
Yeah, I did motorbikes for a while until I realized I was not good at them. I just liked them, and it probably was for everyone's safety that I not get on one again. Yeah, rugby, I played a lot when I was younger. I picked up a lot of injuries, but I was also a lunatic with no self-preservation, so it's kind of hard to figure out where the EDS was and where just the I shouldn't have done that was.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's the other thing too, is you and I have both just completely transformed our health, both physical and mental, and realizing that we have these conditions that pose challenges, and we've just become huge gym enthusiasts, and that has really helped our condition. And but I want to,
But
so
as you
I'll
said, it's the muscle that holds it together.
it is. And another thing that I'm realizing is not just for people like us who absolutely have to, but everybody really needs to get themselves as strong as possible. There's a great podcaster out there, Dr. Peter Attia. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he's got a great podcast.
No.
He's friends with our main man, Dr. Huberman. But he talks about that the number one thing you can do to reduce your ACM, that's all cause mortality. So any reason for dying, the number one thing you can do to reduce that ACM is to get yourself as strong as possible. So that's more important than cardio. It's more important than diet and nutrition. Obviously, those things are important as well, but getting yourself as strong as possible is the best thing anyone can do.
It helped alleviate a million things, but one thing that always kind of comes to my mind is my entire life I always had a weird fear of heights, but particularly trying to being stuck down somewhere. And we both used to have weight issues. I was really overweight, and the idea of a pull-up was virtually impossible. It was never going to happen. And for some reason that just developed into this phobia of, oh, if I ever get stuck and I have to pull myself up somewhere, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
Uh, the realization after weight loss, fitness, muscle gain, everything else, that it was like, oh, I can do pull-ups now. Weird. And for entire life, that was not an option. And it wasn't until I was in my
Yes.
late 20s that was my first pull-up.
Amazing. And
Phobia
you're right. That
vanished.
was, I forgot that a very big aspect to both of our lives are, being twice the size that we are now. And and that that yes, you're right, we're connecting with our bodies in a whole new way. And it really, I'm realizing that the literal things that happen with us, we can view them in a metaphorical sense almost every time. The stronger we get in our bodies, the stronger, the safer our nervous system feels. It's like, okay, you're strong now. There's going to be less anxiety about being out in the world because we know that we can look after ourselves.
Especially after, coming. I've had 4 hernias repaired now, and after the third one, I'd gone through a lot of atrophy, lost a lot of muscle, and just the fear in everyday life of just picking up objects in case something, yeah, I don't know. Now, been able after gym, physio, all the exercise and health things, changing diet. You've been through it with EDS and everything that it takes to manage. Now those fears are gone. I can lift my own body weight off the ground. I can do a pull up when I need to. I'm not scared to live my life anymore.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Well, I would really love for you to share with us a synopsis of your journey thus far. I know that's a tall order in just an hour, but I would love to hear as much as you would like to tell us about your childhood and how those experiences led into discovering your artistic side, your creative side, then the health struggles, and then how you used all of those things to help your craft, help your health, everything.
Ooh, where do I begin on that? So I grew up here on the Isle of Man. I was born in Douglas. Lived pretty, I thought, a normal childhood to a point. I knew I was always a bit different and weird, and I picked up information a bit different to most people, but I never really understood what was happening. As I got older, went into primary school and I started getting bullied pretty bad. I got hospitalized a few times, and yeah, not too. Some kids can be pretty cruel, and that left me quite a mild and quite meek teenager that was quite quiet. I actually ran into an old school friend the other day, Sean Moffat. He runs Mad Jacks. Fantastic guy. I love him to bits, and I'm so proud of how he's progressed. Like just watching his life trajectory, he's just yeah, amazing guy. But I was chatting to him a couple of weeks ago. I went to a gig, and he was saying, "Oh yeah, when we met, you were a really quiet kid. Really, inside yourself. You're a nice guy. You're just so in your shell. You never really came out." And it's like, yeah, I had a bit of a rough start on the primary school, and I was a bit nervous and untrusting at balcony, so I kept myself quiet, kept to the back.
Yeah.
But I hated school. I'm not gonna mince words. I viewed it as a complete waste of time and like a prison the whole time I was there. I hated it every second of every day. I didn't want to be in that place, and it was only through things like rugby, where I got to socialize with kids my own age and my size. I was 6 foot by the time I was 12, so I was
Wow.
already about 18 stone at that point.
Oh,
So
wow.
even though I was the weirdo that was a bit quiet and didn't get on too well with people, I was a big guy. So put me in the rugby team, put me in the scrum. Played. Then I got into competitive basketball. I had a blast with that. That was very, very precious part of my life that I hold dear to my heart. It taught me a lot about teamwork and how to not really be the glory hog because I was crap at shooting. My scoring average was through the floor, but my rebound average was above average. Being a foot taller than everyone helped.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone else wanted to be Michael Jordan. I wanted to be Dennis Rodman.
Yeah.
Back then, I thought minus the weirdness, but the older I get, the more I'm like, screw it, the weird's fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But yeah, that led me through. I left balcony in high school when I was 16. I did a year of A level, but I contracted gastroenteritis just at the very start, and I spent probably more time out of school sick and back and forth to the hospital trying to figure out what was going on than I actually spent in sick form. no surprise, didn't do great on my exams. So I went into the real world and bounced from thing to thing, and I picked up skills and ideas as I went along. Everything from being a driver for companies coming over to trades work. I worked on loads of building sites. Just really developed a passion for working with my hands. And I knew that I wanted to do something skilled. I wanted a craft of some sort. At the time, as I was getting into my late teens, a lot of my friends like Jay was becoming an electrical engineer, and Kieran was studying woodworking in the wood and moved into a year in the woods, and everyone was getting a different thing. But I didn't want to do what everyone else was doing. I didn't want to copy them. I wanted my own niche. I kind of had this idea that me and my friends could have this collective of crafts and skills that,
Yeah.
between all of us, we could build the entire world type thing. So one afternoon, I was up at Chris White's in north of the island. I was sat by a fire with Scott. Unfortunately, not with us anymore, but I will never forget the conversation. He was just talking about farriery, gets me to the blacksmithing, and sat by the campfire having a cup of tea and just telling me about his work, telling me about Hereford, told me about working with horses, and it got some cogs turning in my head, and I thought, yeah, that's something I could do. There's not many people doing that over here. I think there was like 5 active farriers in the entire country at the time. There's
Wow.
a waiting list as long as you like, as long as your leg. So arm as your leg, long as your leg. Uh, Word salad. But yeah, so I applied to Hereford that night, went home, filled it on the online application, Hereford National School of Blacksmithing and Farriery. It's part of the Home Lacey campus, conglomerate of multiple colleges now. They absorbed a few whilst I was there. But they got back to me and said, yeah, come for an interview. I completely unprepared. At the time, I've been working at Domino's, just delivering pizza. And it got to a point where I was working like 6 days a week, 10 hours. I was there open to close every day. I was the guy they called to cover shifts. I just wasn't doing anything other than getting fatter, eating pizza, and being miserable. And when the letter came through saying, "Yeah, we'd like to speak to you for an interview," it was like a changed gear in my head. I remember looking down one day and I got to about 54-inch waist. It was about 25 stone, about 140 kilos, 350 pounds for internationals.
Yeah.
And yeah, I realized that certain parts of my body were disappearing from line of sight. I couldn't see past the gut, and that was just like, enough is enough. And 3 healthy meals a day, no sugar, no sweets, no soft drinks, just water. I was drinking like 8 cans of Monster a day at that point as well. So cut out the caffeine for a while. That was hell. That
Yeah.
first couple of weeks, damn, the headache was intense. But yeah, I dropped like 6 stone in about 3.5 months and
Oh my
went off to.
gosh.
Yeah, it turns out if you eat, to get to the size I was at, you have to maintain that. It takes a hell of a lot of calories to keep that much weight on.
Yeah.
So as soon as I switched on to 3 healthy meals, I was hungry for the first week or so, as my stomach shrank. But after that, I just got through it and went to Hereford, got my passed the exam interview, and they offered me an unconditional spot on the offer. Fortunately, I had all my certificates with me, so they scanned it. I didn't even have to wait. It was bang, right, yeah, you're in. So a
Wow.
few months later, I moved to Hereford. I moved into a shared accommodation with a few other students, and I was actually living with the landlord and their family, Newton and Julie. I will forever love those people. Julie was like a second mum to me. I think she was keeping tabs and like letting my mum know that I was okay. And
Oh, nice.
whenever it was getting to the end of the term and we were all skint and all the money had run out, oh, look at that. I've accidentally made 3 full roast lamb dinners too many. Here you go. You might as well have it.
Oh, how nice. Oh, those people that come into our life, it just, yeah, yeah, yeah. Lovely. Really lovely.
So yeah, I studied farrier for a while, ended up in a long-term relationship, ended up being a carer for a bit, putting the career down. When that relationship ended, I ended up coming back to the Isle of Man a little bit broken and a little bit sad. So I moved on. Yeah, moved on with my life, and that's when Kieran Hanif X, who's the other half of my double act and with our innuendo orchestra, He had just the Rusty Jam Revolution had just kind of broken up, and that was fragmenting, and the band was kind of their days were kind of over. Anyone who got to be there for that knew it was a hell of a wild ride. That was so much fun, but candle at both ends.
Yes, yes. I remember I remember that whole group and all of that happening. Yes.
Yeah, it got intense. So I started playing music with Kieran, and Patrick Leith was living in Macclesfield at the time, saxophone player. We spent every minute we could up there, and I was jamming with Patrick and Roger Lees, and occasionally Kinney was coming up, and they were doing their jazz thing, and I was just immersed in music from every direction, and it was kind of unavoidable to get into it.
Yeah.
Everywhere I went, there was people performing, practicing. We were going to gigs every other night. We were yeah, jamming at Patrick's, jamming at Kieran's, jamming Roger, anywhere. Just it was just music 24/7. And I started picking up new skills. I found Dub FX online. I spotted him in 2014, and I seen his Love Someone video. I think it was filmed in Amsterdam, or might have been Bristol, not sure. Either way, I saw it and went, wow, that's cool. And then years later, me and Kieran have been messing around with some loop pedals, and Patrick turned around and went, "Oh, I've got this RC 300, I think it was. It was the 5 bank that had the expression pedal." And it's like, you guys might as well play with that. I'm not doing anything with it. And it was literally me and Kieran and a set of laptop speakers. And yeah, and a whole new thing was born from that. I learned to
That,
beatbox. It's when I really became a musician. I've been playing guitar since I was 5 years old, but I got lessons, and I did bits and pieces, and I got to like grade 2 in the lessons, and then our tutor asked us, did we want to continue, or did we want to start learning rock and using tabs? And all of us just went AC/DC. Um, so because of that, I think I actually kind of hamstrung my own musical development. But I had no interest. I didn't want to learn music theory, and one thing I've learned about my brain is if I don't want to learn it, it ain't happening.
yeah, 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 exactly.
And years later, finally, music becomes this huge influence surrounding every facet of my life. And I'll never forget turning around to Patrick. We're having a big jam, and I picked up the guitar, and I couldn't find the key. Like I'm missing a lot of my hearing. Sometimes it's a bit hard for me. And I turned around to him and went, "Oh, someone said, oh, we're playing a G or whatever it was." And I'm there with no musical theory going, "What fret's that on?" And I turned to the saxophone player and said, "What fret's that on?" And he went, "I don't effing know. I'm a saxophone player." And it was like, yeah, actually, yeah, I should probably learn this stuff. At least on my instrument. Um, yeah, so that turned me into a musician.
I love it. But we need those moments, don't we? We need those moments to say, right, okay, yes, this needs to happen now. So yeah, 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 yeah. I love those moments that clearly stick with us, where that was the moment where I decided, yeah.
Everything worth happening in my life happened because there was a catalyst. Nothing
Yes,
happened just because there was never a moment where I just suddenly found inspiration out of nothingness and created something new or did something new or learned something new. There was always a catalyst that made me go, huh. And as soon as those cogs are turning, then there's no stopping me.
exactly. And those catalysts, sometimes they're positive, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're, and that's the beautiful thing. And I think that's really important for people to realize whatever's going on in your life, this if it's something that's great, great. But if it's something that's not, that could be great too. And just hold out hope that whatever's happening is going to enrich you and put you on the road, be the catalyst for something else. So yeah, amazing.
Music gave me a new lease of life and gave me a new life.
Yeah.
Honestly, I have no idea where I'd be if I had come back to the island. When I left that relationship, I had a few choices, and I could have stayed there, I could have come home, and I felt this pull to come home. I needed to lick my wounds and do some recovery, and I'm so glad I did. Um, I got to develop as a musician. I've got to record my first EP with Hannah Effects. God, that's 8, 9 years old now,
Wow.
and like it's I listen back to it now and I hear how simple it is and how basic the techniques and I can hear my own development just going, oh wow, I've come so far since then, and it's a huge nice thing to listen back to.
Yeah,
I'd love to
yeah,
re-record it now, like nearly 10 years later with the experience I have. I think it'd be
yeah.
better. But now we're working on a second album. It's been in the pipeworks for a very long time, and I'm not even going to pretend to give you a date that's ready. Sometime between now and 2075.
Okay, okay, that narrows it down. Yes, yes, that's good. So you've had your journey with HannahFX, and that journey is still happening. But alongside that, you've also broken out. I know last year you were flying solo and made some really cool things
Yeah,
happen.
yeah. It was nice to finally set off as JorD DMC.
Yeah.
I've been it's yeah, music it's none of it was done on my own. You know, everything that's happened has been a culmination of experiences and knowledge that I've gained from everyone that I've played with and had the opportunity to grow with. But yeah, last year the band, Hannah Effects and myself with the Inyo End of Orchestra got booked to play Equinox Festival. And unfortunately, our drummer Ed had a big health scare. Virus went to his brainstem. He went blind for a while, and it was
Oh
like,
my gosh.
oh God, yeah, it was terrifying. We were really worried about him, but fortunately, his wife, Jackie, our trombone player, put her head together with a few people, really quickly figured out what was going on, went to the hospital, figured it out, got him sorted quick, and he's made a full recovery,
Oh, good,
thankfully.
good.
But anyway, at the time, that was festival season on pause.
Yeah.
We pulled out when we realized we could play. Unfortunately, we'd lost the spot that we were gunning for. I was supposed to open for the specials. I'm still sore
Oh.
that happens. You know, I'll
Yes,
open for them
yes,
someday. But
yes.
yeah, we got another slot, and then life got in the way, and the band had to cancel that one as well. And I was utterly heartbroken because Equinox is one of my favorite places in the world. It's just it's like going to visit an extended family every year. I'd go even if I'm not playing. But I messaged the booking team and said, hi, I've got loop pedals and a loop and a solo set I've not released any music for. I have no examples for. I can send you a quick phone recording if you like. And they came back and went, yeah, spot's yours, mate. You've been playing for years. We trust you. Go. And I, I I remember getting the message on email. Me and my mum had just gone to the gelatery in Douglas to get some ice cream because I was having such a bad day. I was in such a bad mood, and I was just staying silent because I didn't want to piss on everyone's chips. But I was just the whole day. And then I got that through, and she's like, "Mum, hold my ice cream." I just started, yes, jumping up and down in circles out in the cinema car park. Just yes, yes, yes.
Amazing. 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 And I love how all of these things you've done it your way, and it seems to me anytime you have an idea, I'm going to do something, you do it. You find a way.
Generally speaking, yeah, it's once I decide I'm doing something, there's very little in this universe that will stop me.
It's just amazing. And Equinox was also, you had a great time there. That was amazing. You were in your element.
Yeah, it was fantastic. So as soon as I realized I was heading up there, I got in contact with a bunch of other musicians I've met over the years. Tom Spark from the West Side Collective down in Brighton, Rhiannon Sharkey, Panda MC from Panda and the Moniums, and had Omega 33, Jay, he came up and joined us. Rama Beats, he was doing a DJ set at Equinox, and I got invited up on his set. Well, kind of. I walked into the tent, saw my mate Tom on stage, and he just went, "Yes, please." So I got up and emceed on the drum and bass set for a while. Just going double time. I love it. It's so much fun.
Amazing, amazing.
But yeah, when I actually got on stage, I ended up with 6 guest artists for a solo set.
Share the love. I love it. Now, okay, so for our audience out there who may or may not be familiar with beatboxing, do you mind giving us a bit of a sample of what beatboxing is?
Yeah, it's all those things that you got told off for at school. Just ignore the teachers and do that. So I started off with Mal Webb, really fascinating guy. I got it through FX talking about it in interviews. Mal Webb's a yodel instructor, beatbox instructor, vocalist in general, fantastic. And I came across a set of phrases that teach you the syllables. So beatboxing is just saying words, finding sounds, and then pulling bits out. So
Right.
my favorite like beginner sentences: born to be clever, to be too clever. And so, what? But you start taking out the syllables, and it's born to be clever, born to be too clever, and then you take out the rest of the words, and you go,
That makes so much sense. I've never had that broken down. I've never heard that broken down before, but that makes so much sense.
there's
Uh,
so much of that. Learning the basics. A puffy, one of my favorite ones, gives you a great snare, and it's a puffy, puffy, and it gives you your snare effect. Takes a bit of time to develop the strength and the coordination and figure out where you want to take it out. But after so many years, so much practice, it just becomes innate, and then you start working on new techniques and ideas. I like taking like really good songs that have got like a really interesting beat, and you're like, "Crap, how do I make that? What is that? What is that syllable?" So the Moods released a POP, Profit Over People, fantastic track. If anyone hasn't heard it, go pause this and go listen to it on Spotify right now. But it's got this break in it where it goes. It's got like that four on the floor, and it goes into double, 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 and then it goes into this weird triplet. And I heard that, and I'm like, I need to learn that. And it's that, it's just like, bum, and then you just figure out how to get it faster and faster, and take those the butter bums out, and just and leave just the bubba, and you got the.
Amazing. And as you're explaining that, I'm just realizing that like if we could start doing this, because you're hearing something, you're reverse engineering it, aren't you? You're sort
Yeah.
of, we need to start doing this with our feelings, our thoughts, the things that pop up where we're just like, what's going on here? I don't know why I'm feeling this way. If we can start to reverse engineer our feelings and just go, right, okay, so this led to this, and maybe it was this, and because the curiosity is key, isn't it? Because if you've got somebody, let's say, who is like, oh, I'll never be a beatboxer, I want to do it, it's so cool, and they hear something really complex like that, and they're just like, no, yeah, that's just beyond my reach. You're basically, determining your outcome there. But if you go, no, I'm really curious about this, I want to see what makes this tick, what makes all of this up, which is exactly what you've done.
Kids are great for it as well. Every time I beatbox in front of a child, they're like, "I need to learn that," and they start trying to make the sounds. Like I love showing babies beatboxing, because like you see this utter, huh? Their brains are frazzled by it, but then they're there going, yeah, yeah. It's like, you'll get there, little one. You'll get there. I want
Amazing,
to teach a kid to
amazing.
beatbox before they can talk. That's my dream. Like teach a baby to be able to drop some fat beats before they can say a word.
I love it. Well, so we were chatting a little bit before I hit record, and I mentioned to you that I had watched this episode on the Huberman Lab podcast, because I'm always talking about Andrew Huberman. And he did a whole episode on music and how it affects the mind, how it affects the body. And what's so a couple of, and I haven't even finished it yet. I need to finish watching it. But so far, one of the things he said is um in researching, music was like music and dance and so this is music without lyrics, so we'll put the lyrics aside now, just music and dancing both likely happened in human history before language,
Hmm.
and that music and again, removing the lyrics aspect of it, but just instrumental music can convey really, really complex and nuanced emotions that language just can't.
Oh yeah.
It's
Uh,
so interesting. And that when we listen to music, we actually become the instrument, part of the instrument. The music occurs in our ears and within our body. Yeah, I'm not explaining it very well because I'm obviously
oh,
not up on my
but
knowledge
something
as.
fast. Something fascinating I found a while ago. I was looking into classical music, and I'm not an expert by any means, and my musical theory knowledge is fractional compared to what it should be. But the classical composers, like Beethoven, Bach, Vivaldi, they had certain knowledge of this key. It means this emotion. This note to this note is going to
Yes.
convey this transference. This feeling, this note and this chord sequence and progression is going to make you feel this, and then that breakdown is going to make it transition into this, and then you'll feel this when this note starts, and it's got entire emotional spectrum just dialed down to the music and the
Yeah.
notations, and it's just I don't understand it. It's fascinating. I play from the gut mostly, so I listen to a piece, I play a piece of music, and I go, how does that make me feel? As opposed to how do I feel? I'll play that music.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. And just on the classical music, it's so interesting because I had a thought a couple years ago. I was like, gosh, you know what? Just think, recorded music in the spans of human history, recorded music is like a
The
tiny, tiny
timeline.
dot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if you think about it, before recorded music, if you wanted to hear music, unless you were in a big city where you had access to concerts, you'd have to you'd have to make your own. And so I think it used to be it's the creative endeavor used to be such a more regular part of the human experience. You know, families used to grow up, somebody would learn how to play the piano, somebody would sing, somebody would play the fiddle. But also, so yeah, so that's dying out now. We need to have a renaissance of that and in our humanity. But
Well,
also, can you imagine being back in the time when Mozart was alive? And let's say that you've never heard a piece of classical music before. There's no recorded music. You have to go into a place to hear it. Imagine walking into a theater and Mozart is conducting and the orchestra starts playing. I mean, I bet you people must have just thought this is a religious experience. I mean, it must have just blown people's minds.
well, especially when like I think the walking into the theater part itself is not given enough
Yes.
credit there. I remember being a kid and walking into the Gaiety Theatre for the very first
Yes.
time, and it was breathtaking. It felt like I was walking into a palace. It was so grand. But yeah, just walking into the Gaiety for the first time and seeing the gold filigree and the just the plasterwork and like it's just ornate design everywhere, and it's so beautiful and so purposeful, and it's more to me it's more inspiring than pretty much every church in the Isle of Man I've ever been in. I always mock whenever I see a concrete church with like metal mesh windows, and I'm like, yeah, great place of worship, so inspiring. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
to me,
yeah, yeah.
I'd far rather sit amongst the colors and the moldings and the art in every inch of an entire building before you even get to the main performance that you're actually there to see. It's a whole thing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
I've got the benefit of spending quite a bit of time backstage at the Gaiety growing up. My mum was very much into amateur dramatics with the service players, and from like the age of like 3, 4, I was painting the bottoms of sets whilst everyone was painting everything above 2 foot.
Eh,
Um, the theatre is a spectacular place, and to be able to see it from the perspective of the viewer for the first time was like just so amazing.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I remember, I will never forget the first time I ever saw like the first time I ever went into a venue like the Gaiety, there's in Atlanta, there's the Fox Theater, which is very, very, very similar in how it looks and how it's decorated and set up. And I think even
But
probably similar size.
it also shows to me that the entertainment industry hasn't changed a bit, because you've got all that fancy frivolity and pomposity at the front that's so awe-inspiring and beautiful. And then the second you get behind it, that blaster's cracking and falling to parts, and it's old and musty, and there's no frills backstage. It's just rough stone, and it's
Yeah.
still the same. You're at the music festivals now, and you've got lights and decorations, and the sound crew's got this huge laser light show that's going off, and it's wow, everywhere. And then you step backstage, and it's just cables, pallets. One guy sat there smoking a cigarette, going, "Oh, I've been up for 3 days straight now." It's not glamorous. You,
Yeah. Well, I suppose that's the duality, isn't it, of the of life, isn't it? Because we've got the, the chaos and order. We've got the light and the dark, and we've got the shadow and the and we've got the roots to the tree and then the tree that's growing. So yeah, there's, and behind every sort of magical performance, there is just a whole like
but
going
yes,
on behind the scenes.
seeing that for the first time, going back like 400 years ago, when the only chance you ever got to hear music was when you bought the music that had to play at home, pre-radio, pre-CD, pre-cassette, all that stuff. Like, yeah, that must have been just like, and not just like your cousin who's been playing for 20 years, but never, he's okay, whatever.
Yeah,
To
yeah,
sit
yeah,
there in front
yeah.
of an actual trained professional orchestra that, like, I've seen a few orchestras and modern world, and even so, it's just so
Oh,
wow. Uh,
yeah, it's completely awe-inspiring. When I was growing up, I had the advantage of the school took us to the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra usually once every year, and the venue was designed specifically for an orchestra. And even at that young age, I couldn't really appreciate it like I can now. But even at that young age, you are just, whoa, you are just taken aback.
I actually kind of miss the way I used to listen to music. Before I was a musician, I could just sit down and listen, and there was no thought to it other than just feeling and enjoying and having it wash over me and relate to my experiences or whatever else was happening. And now I'm like, I wonder how we got that guitar tone.
Okay, so this is interesting. Yeah, I mean, I've heard this from all sorts of different people, from people who work in joiners who will walk into a house and they'll see all the mistakes that are made, and and I mean, I would never see that. And yeah, and music, but I mean, it doesn't take it surely it can't take the magic away just because you can hear certain things that maybe other people don't know what's going on. Or does
Yeah.
it take the magic away a bit? Or what, where do
I mean,
you?
sometimes I can listen to music and I'm just enjoy it for the piece that it is. The closer it is to something I would play myself. So if I'm listening to like hip hop, or if I'm listening to something that's got a lot of dub influences and or a lot of metal, then I'll listen to it and I'm sat there analyzing it. What key is it in? What tones the guitar on? What pickup are they using? Yeah, even down to like, oh wow, even with mine, I can't do that. He's drop tuned that, so like, I wonder what strings he's using, because my strings don't drop tune like that. I can't do that, and it just suddenly it does detract. But at the same time, without trying to sound egotistical, I appreciate more than non-musicians would in certain
Yeah.
regards as well,
Yes, yes.
because I get to hear the if someone plays the same piece for someone who's never picked a guitar up in their life, in front of someone like myself, the person who's never heard that guitar before is going to go, "Wow, that sounds incredible. That's awesome." Whereas I'm going to sit back and go, "That takes 20 years more practice than I've had to even try. Oh my God, you're spectacular, and I know everything that it took to get there."
Yes,
And it makes me
yes.
appreciate it even more, because I'm sat just going, the talent, not just how good the music is, but the talent.
Yes, yes. And I mean, even though I don't play an instrument, I have, been around musicians most of my life, and I've been given a window into that. For example, one that always sticks with me is a song that I had heard for years, but I had no idea, no appreciation for the complexity of the guitar work in it, and that's Big Love, Lindsay Pop.
Oh yeah, the
The
acoustic version.
Yeah,
That's on my bucket list as a guitarist to learn. I've tried it like 6 times and I never get past the intro. I figured out the intro a couple times, and then as soon as it goes into like no, error 404, computer not recognized, file not found.
But then also conversely, something that I think, wow, that's so complex. And then a musician is like, no, that's actually really easy what they're doing there. And it's like, oh, right, okay.
I had that a while ago. So I was playing in front of my friend Emma, and I was just warming up and messing around and just noodling. I started playing Thunderstruck by AC/DC, that the
Ah,
intro of
yeah.
it. I like it's iconic. It sounds incredible, and I don't know if you've only just started guitar and you don't really know much about pulling on, hammering off like those techniques. Then I guess it would be quite difficult. But for an intermediate guitarist, it's 2 fingers. You only really need 2 fingers, or maybe three for the entire riff, and it's not hard. But to anyone who doesn't know how to play guitar, they're like, "Oh wow, Thunderstruck!"
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember she turned around to me with like this look of awe and went, "You're the best guitarist I've ever seen." And like, I've been at gigs with her. I know that's not true. So I was just like, "Thank you, but no, no, I'm not."
Oh, well, it's all in the eye of the beholder, or the ear of the beholder, I suppose. Right. I've just realized it is time for the pickle of destiny.
Cool.
So we have a question here from one of our listeners. It's just a generic question. So, um, if you could swap lives with any fictional character for a week, who would it be and why?
Ooh, that is a very, very good question. Any fictional character? Hmm. See, my immediate thought is to go to all my favorite fantasy fandoms, but the amount of adversity those guys have to go through, I don't want that. So, uh, hmm, I think, I mean, it's got to be Dragon Ball Z. It's got to be Goku.
So who?
Dragon Ball Z. It's got to be Goku. I told you I'm a nerd. Like the
All right,
guy
well,
always
please
wins. He
explain
can't be
who.
killed. He keeps coming back.
All right, clue us in, clue us in. I am not familiar with
So
this.
Goku or Son Goku, if you're real nerdy. Dragon Ball Z was a series that followed on from Dragon Ball, which was originally created by Akira Toriyama in the original mangas. It then got serialized in animation, and Japanese anime got
So,
imported.
okay, so this is anime, right, right, right.
Goku is particularly the original series is based on the Sun Wukong Chinese legend of the Monkey King, who's basically the goat at everything, can't be beat, and goes through lots of adventures. That's kind of where the similarity ends. It's the original basing of him, but he's the protagonist of the story. He's a mixed martial artist who, through hard work and dedication, always manages to break his own limits and surpass where he thought he would get stopped, and inevitably wins. Everyone says he's a bad dad, but he got himself killed twice trying to save his son, so I'll let the fandoms argue about that one.
Well, apart from everybody saying he's a bad guy, it sounds like you're kind of already you're kind of already living this guy's life. Anything that you set out to do, you seem to make it happen. So, it's pretty
I mean, I
awesome.
try. It's yeah, I never really thought about it that way. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've always had this urge to strive forward. Occasionally, I get stopped, and I'm one who's had mental health issues in the past. I've suffered with depression and anxiety. When you can't leave that front door, you ain't getting anything achieved. But keep on trucking and find something that's worth getting you out the door for.
Absolutely,
Uh,
absolutely. And I mean, so okay, so let's bring it back to Zen and the Art of the Mind is looking at arts and mental health. We want to build our resilience whilst at the same time making sure that we deepen our self-care. Both things are just as important as the other. Two sides of the coin, chaos and order, all of that. So how would you say music and your craft helps both of those, the resilience
uh,
and the self-care?
they are both remedies, soothing tonics, and also indicators. So
Mm,
I quite often I'll turn to music when I need some when I'm in states of anxiety or I need some relief, and it gives me an escape. It gives me something to go to. Same with blacksmithing. I remember first time I was in the forge for a big long forge, big 8 hour plus session. It was in college, and I blinked, and it was lunchtime. And it was like it was 7:30 in the morning, 5 minutes ago. How is it 1 o'clock in the afternoon?
wow.
Went, got my food, came back after lunch, cleaned out the fire, got working again. Blink, time to go home. There's no way I've just lost like 8, 10 hours in two blinks of an eye. And
Wow.
it just kept happening. And I realized I was just sinking into this hyper focus and this Zen-like state where the world stopped existing. It was me and the metal, and that was it. I wasn't even thinking about when I started off, I was thinking about coordination, technique, everything else. But as those things gradually affirmed themselves in my muscle memory and I became more skilled with the craft, I stopped having to think about those things. They became like breathing. And
Yeah.
it just suddenly turned into this gigantic relief from the real world where for 8 hours it was just Zen and the art of metal. And that was it.
That's the
Um,
flow state. That is the flow state. And to do it for that long amount of
days,
time.
weeks, months.
Wow.
Yeah, it was fantastic. At the time, my home life was not exactly the best, so it became an even bigger relief to be able to just light that fire. And whilst the kindling was crackling and the coke was starting to light, that's when my world started just oh, shrinking down again,
Yeah.
and everything that was happening was suddenly a lot more dealable because I had that reprieve, I had that time to breathe. And music
Yes.
very much gave me the same thing.
Yes.
Um, Weirdly, the more creative and skilled I got with music, the more it could feel like a chore sometimes. Like I
Mm,
had to do it. And the more we started playing festivals and gigs and trying to write and record, the more demand was put on it, the less relief I was getting from it.
mm.
The more it became, yeah, a chore. It was something I had to do, whether I liked it or not. And that was actually quite an obstacle in a few places, because especially on days where having low mental health days, that the idea of spending an hour setting up all the cables, putting the guitar amp and the pedals and this and laptop and going through DAW softwares, and it was enough to make me not want to pick up any of it. It was too much.
Yeah.
Whereas on my off seasons between festivals when there's no pressure, it's like cool, let's just spend an hour fecking around with cables. But I found workarounds for that. So as a solo artist, I'm a beatboxing looper. I don't really play with any instruments. It's just me, a microphone, multi-effects unit, so I can create tracks, bass effects, harmonies, delays, reverbs, or anything to create an on-the-go track. That is in itself like a whole contained unit in my head. That's a segment over here. This is what I do. And then I've got the stuff with the band where I don't beatbox as much anymore since we added our drummer, but I still add backing vocals, scratch effects, and what, and all that kind of stuff. So, um, but I'm playing guitar, I'm vocal, do my vocals, and I'm connecting with my band. But again, as soon as I plug that guitar in, it's the band's music. That's segmented over here. And again, that's something that requires work and time and effort and collaboration. But then I've got what I started on in the middle. I've got my acoustic guitar, and there's no pressure. I never perform acoustic. It's not my thing, and
Yeah.
that means I can just pick up my acoustic guitar and play. And there's no pressure to practice this piece or work on that track for the band or get ready for this set I have to perform with all this pressure. It's just me and my acoustic and it's relaxing and
I
beautiful
love
and
that.
nice.
That's really insightful. So I think any artists who are listening right now, no matter what you're doing, if you're doing it for a living or you know, and you're or it's a side hustle or whatever, there will be moments where it will suddenly it's like, oh no, this is turning into a job. I don't, you know, I don't want to lose the magic, the spark, the passion. So getting curious and having those little things that are just for you, I think is really important. And you also hit upon something really important that I want to highlight as well. When we're going through a challenging time like you were when you were blacksmithing and losing and going right into the flow state, um, gosh, it's so important when we are going through challenges to think about our circle of control. What is in our control? Because that's going to help you if you've got a lot of chaos happening that's outside of your control. Focusing on things that are in your control is the way to survive it and find a way out as well.
If there's nothing you can do, what can you do? Like
Yeah.
figure that out, do that. Um,
Yes, yes, exactly,
it,
exactly, because that's
I,
that's something.
I, I do get somewhat people shocked a little bit sometimes because I used to wake up and I'd sit there for an hour. I'd watch BBC, Channel 4, ITV, Al Jazeera, Russia Today, just anything and Fox, CNN, everything I could do to try and get every single perspective. Mostly because I didn't trust any of them to give me the truth. I figured if I looked at every single angle from every single version of propaganda and ideology, then I might be able to piece together what's happening somewhere in the middle of all that.
Yeah.
And it just created anxiety and depression and outrage at the injustice in the world. Again, the autism, I got the brand of that's not right, and I will die on this hill. Um,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
so I kept finding hills to die on and not too happy that it was happening. So I stopped looking for hills.
I love it.
And
I love it.
I realized that, a hospital full of kids gets bombed flat in another country halfway across the world by other countrymen that have nothing to do with me. And I get sometimes protests can be helpful, but there's no amount of anxiety. There's no world where me being so angry that I can taste blood is going to change what's happened on the other side of the world.
Yes.
Um, the only
Yes.
choice I had was to stop immersing myself in the misery.
It's very wise. It's very wise because yeah, it will shape the way we see the world completely. That what we're paying, it's why I say pay attention to what you're paying attention to because that will be shaping your world. And you're right, we don't want to stick our head in the sand, but we we need to look after our own mental well-being first before we can
Have,
start to help heal the
have you
world.
ever have you ever thought about buying a car or getting something? I've noticed that my friend Declan, he bought a Suzuki Jimny, and it's a pretty niche thing. He loves it. He's like big into them. And it's not something I'd ever really consider. It's like, oh, all right, yeah, it's our car. It's not really my thing, but whatever. And then suddenly I start seeing them everywhere. And it's
Yeah,
because I was thinking about it. I was looking for it. And
exactly.
same happened to me when I bought my Golf. I bought a VW Golf, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's nice. And then suddenly they're everywhere. Mini, if you look for something, if you focus on something, you will find it.
Yes, yes. There's a little section in our brain called the reticular activating system, the RAS for short. And yes, it filters out all of the information that's happening around us and only gives us the things that are confirming the narrative that we have going on. So it is really important. And somebody, I think it was my trainer, Phil Quirk, who gave the example of digesting food, eating and digesting food is similar to how our brain, because when we're eating something, we have the experience of the taste and the smell and the chewing and the swallowing, and then we feel full. But after that, the whole process of digestion and all of that, we're on to other things. Same thing with our brain when we're watching the news and we're taking it in and we're like, okay, and then we go on to something else and we think we're no longer digesting it. Our brain is digesting all of that and shaping how we see the world.
So I think I've actually got a weird little personal hack. Maybe you'd find something similar with EDS, but because of all the dietary issues, gastrointestinal issues, once I started isolating what the foods that were going to cause flare-ups and triggers and gut inflammation were, and I stopped eating them, every time I eat food, it's just when that gas and pain and everything, bloating, scar flare-ups, dislocation for some godforsaken reason, when that all stops, I'm sat there going, yeah, I did the good thing. I ate the good food. I feel the nutrition running through my body, and I'm not crippled, and I'm not in pain, and I'm not gassy, and I'm not, yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
So
it's
I think my brain is actually now with like as soon as I have good nutrition for ages, my brain's like, good boy, you did good. This is nice. We're gonna survive today.
it's so important that you do that. I mean, that is completing the loop of anything, you know, congratulating yourself is really important when you do make a choice that you know is in alignment with what's going to be good for you. Because when we do that, yes, 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 we get a lovely little nice healthy hit of dopamine, which means we're more likely to do it again the next time and the next time. So,
Well,
you know,
there's so
yeah,
much to what you're looking for. Like another example I could think of is when I was losing weight, I ended up a friend of mine recently, because I was talking about nutrition and food and trying to get my body fat down a little bit. I was talking like 2 to 3%, not drastic things, just
yeah,
like maybe it'd be nicer to see a bit more of a six pack type thing.
yeah,
And he immediately was like, dude, you know you're so prone to eating disorders. Like, be careful. And it was like, I totally get it. It was a place of concern from someone who's seen me bounce from, twice the body weight I am now to almost a third less than I am now. And like, I'm 6'1". You should not be as thin as I was at one point. And that led
yeah,
to all sorts of other health complications. But
yeah,
just to have a healthy relationship with food for the longest time, my psychology behind weight loss and the dieting was self-hate. It was you're fat, you're a loser, you don't deserve this. And it was self-punishment and chastisement into not doing the things that I shouldn't be doing. But that turned into something so much more dangerous because once I'd reached those goals, that didn't go away. That the self-hatred didn't disappear, and
yes,
that circle just kept continuing until I went from obesity to anorexia, and it was
yeah,
not, that it took a lot to be able to shift that headspace to I'm not doing this because I hate who I am. I'm doing this because I love myself and I want the best for myself. And
yes.
that was so hard to get from do it, you fat, lazy piece of crap, to hey, I want to live a happy, long, good life with lots of joy.
Yes,
That you
yes,
can do almost the same set of activities either side of that, but the mentality that between those two is so worlds apart.
absolutely. And would you say, would I be right in saying that that headspace shifted once you knew more about yourself, the EDS and autism, or
Oh, for
what
sure.
changed that, do you think?
Um, well, I don't know. I kind of joke that I didn't really start developing self-confidence till I was about 25. I was really, really mild. Like anyone who knows me now is like, eh, because they see the pictures of a 25 stone guy, and I tell them about the guy who doesn't talk, doesn't perform, doesn't do outlandish things, keeps quiet in the background, and try and say something, and someone will talk over, and you just sit back and just, okay, yeah, I'm not important enough to be part of this.
Yeah.
Now it's yeah, it took a long time to gain that confidence. And once I started feeling confident in myself, which music gave me a huge buff to.
Yeah.
Coming
Yeah.
to Blacksmith was nice. I felt strong,
Yeah.
but I didn't feel, particularly with my home life and other influences in my mental health at the time, it didn't really coalesce into confidence. It became less fear of the world for sure, but more, not feeling good about myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas music, I don't know, I've been kind of conscious of the fact that I need to keep an ego in check because every now and then I'll meet someone whose ego is flying off the handle and I'm like, oh, don't do that. That's not pretty.
I don't
Um,
think you need to worry about. I think people, yeah, yeah. People with,
oh, don't tempt me. My ego could go off like a rocket.
but
Um,
here's what I think, because I think the people whose egos are just really what's behind that is doubt and fear. Those people that are so over the top, they're not feeling it. That's not authentic.
no,
Yeah.
and it took me a long time. Again, autistic, social skills were never my strong suit. I did not get on well at school. I didn't know how to talk to people. I didn't know how to ask girls out. I couldn't talk to a woman I was attracted to without and like shaky and like that ain't sexy. No one's saying yes to that date. Um, and yeah, it was a tough time. And music gave me the ability to, even whilst being an introverted weirdo that wasn't good at all that stuff, people wanted to talk to me. You get off stage, and especially you're playing Douglas, you're surrounded by, even if it's just a bunch of drunks that you've never met before in your life, you get off stage and oh, that was ace, mate, and they want to come shake your hand and meet you and talk to you and probably give you some advice on how to tune your guitar or something. I don't know. Um, but it gave me an environment in which I felt special for the first time, and I felt welcome and wanted, and people wanted to know me without me having to be something else or try or pretend. They
Yes.
they came
Yes.
to me. There was
Yeah.
not I wasn't this scared kid trying to reach out and connect to people. People were reaching out and connecting to me, and that made a huge difference. Plus, getting to see, I had Kieran as an example. Honestly, I for years I've developed my own personality now and my own confidence, but for the longest time I just see him meeting people, talking to people, talking, like going out with girls and doing things like that, and I sit there and go, I want to do that. I can't do that. I'm going to try and do that. And it helped me get my foot in the door of finding who I am and not just being so scared all the time.
Yes,
Uh,
yes, exactly. And how beautiful that, when we share music, I was talking about this with Aaron Harwood when we did our little mini pod, is, you're it's great for the musician, you're getting this love from the audience, but it's so great for the audience as well, because you're providing music, which is just so special and so wonderful. And you could have been forgiven for turning into a bitter adult after a very difficult childhood, but you haven't.
it's
And instead, the very people who may have bullied you could be in the audience, that you are spreading love and hope, and just being your your authentic self.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely got to have an alter ego on stage. Like Jor DMC is me. It's just me
Yeah,
turned up to like 200.
yeah, yeah,
I I think particularly like over lockdown, I was so worried about coming back into general population because the filter between my brain and my mouth had eroded to nothing. And I kept saying things out loud, and people were like, "You're in public," and I'm like, "I don't care." Oh wait, yeah, maybe I should care. But like on stage, there's just I don't know. It's so freeing because people, they want to hear what you have to say. They want to hear
yes,
the if someone's paid 300-400 quid for a festival ticket and they're there for the weekend and they've chosen to sit down at your stage, or they're sat there on the railing listening to you, or they're dancing their arse off, it's because they want to be there. They're
yeah,
enjoying it and they want to hear what you have to say. And that's really nice. Sometimes I push it too far. You need to really learn how to work a crowd. I've got some fairly social commentary, acerbic, political kind of pieces here and there. If you see a bunch of like beer gutted, bald, middle-aged men from England, most of them called Keith or Darren, maybe don't bust out the Tory jokes. Uh, However, if you're at a music festival surrounded by people with dreadlocks and Mohicans and letting their freak flags fly, you're pretty safe.
yeah,
You know,
yes,
crack
yes.
the conservative joke.
You read the
I,
room,
yeah, that
yeah.
that took a while. I did manage to alienate an entire crowd once by I cracked one joke and I thought it was funny. But I saw a guy in the crowd. He was right at the front of the stage. It was just before I was off for Equinox. I was playing my solo set, so I didn't have anyone on stage to tell me to shut up. And I see this guy pop up, and he's got a hat that says groom across the front. And I just turn around to him and go, "Did you get married, or is that a Jimmy Savile kind of thing?" And I move on
Oh,
with the track. He laughed. The crowd laughed. His new wife that he'd married like 4 hours beforehand at the back of the crowd started screaming, but I had a microphone. So,
oh dear.
but I noticed about
Oh.
halfway through the next song, like him and his mates are dancing at the front, and she just comes out of nowhere, like, "We're leaving." And he's like, "Oh, I want to keep dancing." And like the first marital spat happened in the middle of the dance floor because I cracked that joke. And I'm like,
Oh
okay,
my God.
maybe be careful what you call your audience.
Yeah, maybe, right. Well, we are running out of time. I so want to have you back because I think we could have a great conversation about autism and what else was I and yeah, and about your journey with weight loss as well. This is and getting nice and strong and Ehlers-Danlos, chronic illness. So there's so much to talk about. So no doubt
Uh,
you will be back on.
I'd love
Now
to.
uh,
I will say, anyone with EDS, don't listen to what the NHS and max care doctors say to you. They will give you no information whatsoever. Start looking up the Zebra information, Ehlers-Danlos Society online. Start looking at the nutrition-based stuff. It's not a
yeah.
cure, but it will help so much. And the NHS and max care told me nothing about it. I had to go find it
Yeah.
all for myself.
Yeah, we're lucky to be living in a time where we can sort of look after ourselves through our own research, and that's what we have to do. But then again,
Yeah,
that's kind of what we have to do with all areas of our life. We've got to figure things out, and you've been doing that amazingly so far. So I'm gonna put in the description links to all your socials. And I suppose it's a bit early in the year for festival season announcements and all that fun stuff, but
w- we have a few bookings, but they haven't been announced yet. So
yeah.
I'll be keep an eye on my social media pages. There will be releases for festivals. That's all I can say.
Within, yeah, when do they normally get released? Is that normal sort of like April time or May or
Depends on the festival.
yeah,
Some of them, they're busy. They've got teams running. Everyone always thinks of the festival as this big conglomerate magical thing in the background, but it's people with lives,
yeah,
kids, and
exactly.
jobs, and
Of
yeah,
course.
it's when it's out, it's out. When they give me the email that says you can talk about it, I'll talk about it.
Excellent, excellent. So as we're coming towards the end of the episode, it is time to get down to business and cultivate the witness. So this is the part of the program where we finish off every podcast with a guided meditation. And I always invite the guests to be involved as little or as much as they want to. We've had quite a diverse selection so far. The first one Val and I did together. The next one after that, Aaron Harwood gave me some of his lyrics, and I did a guided meditation after that. And so we're doing something somewhat similar today. So you had one line, a really cool line that you gave me, and I kind of played around with it, and I've come up with a guided meditation, and you have agreed very kindly to lead the meditation today. So without further ado, first, before we get started, I would like to say whoever's listening, if you are driving or you're blacksmithing or operating any sort of heavy machinery, pause the recording until you can safely come into stillness.
And I might sound like a granddad, but make sure that that angle grinder disc has stopped spinning before you put it down.
Wise words, wise words. Yes.
No one needs that mess. Begin by finding a comfortable and seated position. Adjust your body in any way that it needs as you come into stillness. Close your eyes gently and take a deep breath in through your nose, feeling your chest and abdomen expanding with air. I invite you to take a moment to notice how you feel here and now at the beginning of this practice. and begin to allow yourself to settle in. Take a deep breath in through the nose and exhaling through the mouth like you're fogging a mirror or a pair of glasses. And again, a deep breath filling the belly and into the lungs all the way, and then exhale, releasing slowly, sinking deeper and deeper. Let your body become heavy, allowing your whole body to empty of tension. Your entire body is just draining of tension with each and every breath. As you rest here, letting your breath come back to a natural rhythm, feel the ground beneath you, supporting your body. Now imagine the roots extending from your feet, anchoring you to the earth. As you continue to breathe deeply and rhythmically, allow yourself to let go of any expectations or judgments that you may have about this meditation. Simply be present in this moment, allowing yourself to fully experience whatever arises. Now, bring your attention to the phrase, "Don't conform to the norm you're born to, I warn you." Repeat this phrase silently to yourself with each inhale and exhale, allowing it to resonate deep within you. With each repetition, feel a sense of liberation and empowerment washing over you. Allow yourself to release any limiting beliefs or patterns that may be holding you back from fully embracing your true self. As you continue to breathe and repeat that phrase, visualize yourself breaking free from the constraints of societal expectations and norms. See yourself standing tall and proud, fully embodying your authentic self without fear or hesitation. With each breath, affirm to yourself. Repeat the following affirmations. 1. I release the need to conform. 2. I honor my true self. 3. I embrace my uniqueness. 4. I am free from society's expectations. 5. I am unique and I am enough. 6. I am breaking free. I am authentic. Feel these affirmations anchoring you deep in a sense of self-acceptance and self-love. Know that you are deserving of love and respect exactly as you are, and that you have the power to create the life that you desire. As you bask in the warmth of these affirmations, allow yourself to open your heart to the infinite possibilities that await you. Feel a sense of excitement and anticipation bubbling up from within, knowing that you are capable of achieving anything you set your mind to. As you continue to breathe and reflect, notice any resistance of discomfort that arises. This may manifest as tension in the body or as thoughts and emotions that arise in response to those lyrics. Whatever you experience, simply observe it with an attitude of curiosity and non-judgmental awareness. Now, imagine yourself as a witness to the unfolding of experiences, observing the ebb and flow of thoughts, feelings, and sensations, without identifying with them. From this perspective of mindful awareness, allow yourself to question the narratives and beliefs that shape your sense of self and identity. Picture a golden thread connecting you to the universe. It flows through your heart, grounding you. Feel the energy of your true self merging with the cosmos. You are part of something greater. Whisper, I am finally unique. Peel away the layers, the roles, the masks, the conditioned mind. See through the cosmic game. Alan Watts once said, "You are the dreamer and the dream. You are both the creator and the created." Allow yourself to simmer and soak in the energy of empowerment and self-connection. Imagine, if you will, that you are a surfer riding the swells of reality. As you navigate the vast expanse of the ocean, you realize that conformity is like trying to swim against the tide. It's exhausting and ultimately futile. Instead, let yourself flow with the rhythm of the waves, embracing the inherent uniqueness of your being. Just as each wave in the ocean is distinct and beautiful in its own right, so too are you a singular expression of the universe. So don't conform to norms imposed by society or expectations. Instead, heed the call of your inner truth and authenticity. Embrace the freedom to be yourself fully, without reservation or hesitation. As you surrender to the ebb and flow of life, you discover a profound sense of peace and contentment. Allow yourself to be carried by the currents of existence, trusting in the wisdom of the universe to guide your journey. In this state of surrender and acceptance, you find liberation from the constraints of societal norms and expectations. You are free to express yourself authentically and to dance to the rhythm of your own heart. So, dear friends, heed the call of the ocean of unique authenticity within you. Ride the waves of existence with grace and courage, knowing that you are a unique and precious manifestation of the divine. Remember that you are not your thoughts. You are the vast expanse of awareness in which they arise and subside. Remember, you are a unique and valuable individual, and you have the power to live your life authentically and boldly. Embrace your true self, and the world will embrace you in return. Remember, dear friends, the path is the destination. As we bring this meditation to a close, take a moment to express gratitude for the opportunity to explore the depths of your own consciousness. Know that you can return to this ocean of awareness any time, finding refuge and solace in the ever-present stillness of your own being. When you are ready, gently bring your awareness back to the sensations of your body, space around you. Take a few deep breaths, allowing yourself to reorient to the present moment with a sense of clarity and presence. And when you are ready, gently open your eyes, returning to the world around you with a renewed sense of calm and clarity. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Jor DMC, what an honor, what a pleasure. And I know this is just the first of many conversations we will likely have on this podcast. There's so much to talk about. Thank you so much for spending time today and for that beautiful guided meditation and for being so open with your story. It really shows other people how they can also be open with their stories. And the more we share our stories with each other, I think the better this world will get.
Whether it be being neurodivergent, EDS, being a creative, having interesting niche hobbies, everything in this world got a lot easier when I realized that I wasn't alone and that other people got to share my experience, and the difficulties and pains and traumas aren't unique. Some maybe it's very specific details, but
Yeah.
everyone's gone through something, and there's always someone who can understand what you've experienced.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. Thank you so, so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
See you next time.
If I could sing or play an instrument for you, I would sing and play an instrument for you. If I could dance for you, I would dance for you. If I could paint for you, I would paint for you. But my thing is words. But the problem about words is that you may listen to them.
And that would be a mistake.